Let's dive right into this explainer, guys, because today we're looking at something truly wild. It's a purebred motorsport beast that somehow, inexplicably, managed to get a license plate. If you're looking for a comfortable ride for a casual Sunday cruise, yeah, you're definitely in the wrong place. This is quite literally a track day monster brought to the public streets. As you'll see from the visuals we're pulling up, every single detail we're about to explore proves this machine really belongs out on the asphalt of a racing circuit.
Now, I want you to listen to this design philosophy. This car wasn't designed to go fast. It was designed to change the direction of the wind. Just let that sink in for a second. We are about to look at an absolute masterclass in aerodynamics. When you look at the fluid lines of this vehicle, you have to realize that absolutely nothing, no curve, no crease, no vent, was slapped on there just to look cool. Every single millimeter is engineered with a singular, obsessive purpose, and that is to manage physical forces and manipulate the air rushing around it. Before we get completely lost in the engineering sauce, let's establish exactly what this badge actually means. GT3 refers directly to the famous, highly competitive motorsport class, and RS, well, that stands for Rennsport, which is German for racing sport. But honestly, what this name really represents is a completely defiant philosophy. In a modern automotive landscape that's getting totally dominated by heavy hybrid systems and turbochargers, the GT3 RS just completely rejects those trends. It stands its ground with a pure, naturally aspirated scream and raw mechanical engineering. Okay, look at the sheer scale of this swan neck rear wing. It's the defining visual feature of the car, and it literally sits higher than the roofline itself. But it's not just massive for the sake of it, it's incredibly smart. This wing introduces the first ever dynamic drag reduction system, or DRS, in a production Porsche. Basically, with a button on the steering wheel, or even completely automatically, this huge wing can open up on the straightaways to slice through the air and cut drag. But the very second you slam on the brakes for a corner, boom, it snaps shut, acting like a giant air brake and generating massive downforce. Let's break down the rest of this aerodynamic anatomy, and we gotta move fast here because there is so much happening. First off, say goodbye to the front trunk. It's completely gone, so no grocery runs in this thing. Porsche ripped out the standard 3-radiator setup and dropped in a single, massive, slanted central radiator, taking a page right out of their GT3 RS race car. Because of that, the hood has these giant vents to blast out hot air. Then you've got front fender louvers bleeding out high-pressure air from the wheel wells so the front axle stays planted. And those little fins on the roof, they actively deflect the hot radiator air out to the sides, making sure only freezing cold, dense air makes its way back to the engine intakes. It's just a masterpiece of fluid dynamics.
And if you want to understand the sheer obsession of Porsche's engineers, just look at the front suspension. It's a double-wishbone setup, sure, but they didn't just use standard round metal tubing. No, the suspension arms themselves are actually shaped like teardrops. They're essentially tiny upside-down airplane wings. So while they're just sitting there doing their normal job of holding the wheels on the car, the aerodynamic shape of those links alone generates an extra 40 kilograms of downforce at high speeds. They're literally using the suspension to push the car into the tarmac. Insane, right?
So what does all of this wild aero trickery actually add up to? Well, at 285 kilometers per hour, the new GT3 RS produces a staggering 860 kilograms of downforce. Just to put that in perspective, that is double the downforce of the previous generation and 3 times the downforce of a standard GT3. 860 kilos. It effectively turns the car into a giant vacuum cleaner that sucks it onto the track surface, letting you take corners at speeds that absolutely defy logic.
But look, aerodynamics is only half the story of this explainer. As we shift gears here, I want you to step away from the cold, calculated science of airflow for a second and tap into the raw, fiery emotion that powers this beast. In an era of electricity and turbos, a purebred scream rises to 9,000 RPM. Let's take a look at the mechanical heart beating beneath all that carbon fiber.
4.0. That is the magic number. That's the displacement, in liters, of this absolute marvel of an engine. It's a 4.0-liter, naturally aspirated, flat-6 boxer engine. You won't find any turbos here muffling the sound, and definitely no heavy electric motors adding artificial weight. It is just pure, explosive, internal combustion at its finest.
525. That's the max horsepower this naturally aspirated engine is throwing down. And honestly, the best part? You don't unlock all 525 of those horses until you wind the engine all the way out to 8,500 RPM. This engine absolutely begs you to push it to the absolute limit.
9,000. This is the grand finale of this mechanical symphony. The red line hits at a dizzying 9,000 revolutions per minute. I want you to just imagine for a second what that sounds like. The deafening, spine-tingling shriek of a pure mechanical engine vibrating at 9,000 RPM right behind your head as you blast down a straightaway. It's unbelievable.
Let's bring all that power together and look at the numbers. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour? Demolished in just 3.2 seconds. 0 to 200 takes a mere 10.6 seconds. Max torque sits at 465 newton meters at 6,300 RPM. But check out that max speed, 296 kilometers per hour. Now, in the hypercar world, that might actually seem kind of restrained. Why isn't it higher? Because the genius of this car isn't about hitting the absolute highest top speed in a straight line. The top speed is actively limited by the massive aerodynamic drag we talked about earlier. This car willingly trades outright top speed for terrifying, face-melting cornering grip.
Now, delivering all that screaming power to the rear wheels is a 7-speed PDK dual-clutch automatic transmission. But to make sure the car feels as violent and urgent as possible, Porsche gave this RS a shorter final drive ratio compared to the standard GT3. This basically means you chew through the gears much faster. It creates this incredibly aggressive, razor-sharp throttle response that physically punches you in the back every single time you touch the pedal.
1,450. That is the total weight of the car in kilograms. Despite being wider, featuring much larger wheels, and carrying all that massive aerodynamic hardware we saw, the car is still an absolute featherweight. So, how did they pull off this extreme diet? Let's take a look.
It comes down to an almost obsessive use of carbon fiber reinforced plastic. The hood, the front fenders, the roof, the doors, they are all entirely carbon fiber. But if you really want the ultimate no-compromises track weapon, you have to opt for the Weissach package. That upgrades your front and rear sway bars, your rear axle links, and the roof to exposed carbon fiber. It also throws in magnesium forged wheels, which dramatically drops the unsprung weight at each corner. It basically makes the car dance over the tarmac with incredible agility.
All right, we've covered the wind, we've covered the engine, and we've covered the weight. Now let's step inside the cockpit. Just imagine gripping a steering wheel where you aren't merely pointing the car left or right, you are actively controlling the very physics of how it interacts with the road. With 4 magic dials right there on the wheel, you can literally rebuild the car's setup instantly, like you're your own race engineer.
Let's see how this builds a completely bespoke driving experience right from your fingertips. First, PASM lets you individually adjust the suspension stiffness. You can tweak the compression and rebound of the dampers on the fly. Meanwhile, PTV Plus fine-tunes the locking rate of the rear differential so you can dial in your traction coming out of corners. The traction control gives you 7 different levels, so you choose exactly how much slip you want. And of course, the drive mode switch lets you jump seamlessly between configurations. You could literally be mid-corner, feel the car reacting a certain way, and adjust the suspension rebound with your thumb without ever taking your eyes off the next apex. That is next-level control. Taking a look around the rest of the interior, you'll find a beautifully Spartan race cabin. Luxury has been ruthlessly stripped away in the name of pure speed. The standard door handles? Gone, replaced by lightweight fabric pull loops. All the surfaces are covered in grippy Alcantara, which Porsche calls Race Tex, and you're locked tightly into place with carbon fiber bucket seats. And if you look behind you, 0 rear seats. Instead, you get a massive steel, or if you got the Weissach package, titanium, roll cage to provide ultimate track safety and stiffen the chassis even further.
Which brings us to a final, pretty provocative thought I want to leave you with today. As the entire automotive world seems to be charging headfirst into an era of silent, heavy electric vehicles and totally digitized driving experiences, we really have to ask ourselves, is this screaming 9,000 RPM, naturally aspirated, aerodynamically obsessed track monster the ultimate peak of mechanical engineering? It's a true masterpiece of defiance, proving that the visceral, hair-raising thrill of raw, unfiltered mechanics is still alive and well. Just something to think about the next time you hear a flat 6 engine echoing in the distance. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, guys, and keep learning.